If someone offered you a chance to be the best version of yourself, younger, more confident, perfect, would you take it? That's pretty much what the substance is. A drug that takes everything that is you and creates a better version of you. The catch? You only get to experience the better you for 7 days at a time, sharing the experience with your other self while remembering to respect the balance. The Substance is a movie that was theatrically released in late 2024 and gained mass popularity, praising the performances of Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley as they play two sides of the same coin as Elizabeth Sparkle and Sue, along with praise for its use of practical effects and makeup. Now in 2025, the film has received critical acclaim from multiple institutions and won Best Makeup and Hairstyling at the 97th Annual Academy Awards. Written by Coralie Fargeau as a commentary on aging, self-worth, and self-acceptance of women through the male gaze and the objectification of our bodies. The movie follows fictional starlet Elizabeth Sparkle after she is disrespectfully fired from her job doing an aerobic show called Sparkle Your Life on her 50th birthday. Feeling worthless after a series of life-altering events on this day, she turns to a black market drug, the Substance, to hopefully get back the life that she once had. Fair warning, if you have not seen The Substance, I will be getting into a lot of spoilers as I deep dive further into the movie. Also, content warning from this point on, we will be getting into subjects of ED and self-harm, and also possible images of body horror. What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. First things first, y'all know I gotta get the promo out of the way. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. All that information is in my description box down below. I do have multiple YouTube channels. I have a lifestyle channel that I rarely post on, but we will be getting some stuff this summer. And I have a Sims channel, which I post on every day except for Saturday and Sunday. So be sure to check out those channels if you would like to see more content from me. And of course, I want to thank all of my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me outside of just YouTube. I appreciate you guys' continued support through this journey and so much more to come. You guys actually seen the interviews for this video first. With all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. To me, the Substance represented any cosmetic procedure that one may receive to physically enhance themselves. Even with the risks that are commonly known, for a chance to be seen as desirable, the price you pay is worth the cost. Having watched the movie twice though, I was conflicted. Was I missing something? Why the heck was this movie so loved? Was it not obvious what the allegory for the movie was and the nature of the substance? I felt a little left out.
I was confused. I didn't know what it was going to be about. So like I knew like generally kind of the vibe because I like seen it on like Twitter and whatever.
Right,
but
me too.
When I started watching it, I was like, all right, where are we going? And then by the time like the substance got introduced, I was like, okay, I think I know where we're going.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was interesting.
I felt bad because I'm like, I spoke to you and Ella, and I completely forgot to tell you guys, you know, the content that was in the movie. I'm just moving fast. I'm like, oh, have you guys seen The Substance? Oh, okay. Can you guys watch that for me? And you guys were like, what the heck?
It didn't get crazy until like the end. Like the first half of it, when it was like just like a lot of those bathroom scenes, I was like, okay, this is crazy, but I'm here.
They
and
took
then,
it
like,
up like
yeah, they kicked it. I was like, all right,
like 100 notches.
When I saw The Substance, I was definitely thinking, girl, this just Ozempic. This substance, girl, the substance is literally just Ozempic. Stop playing in my face. Because as a medical professional, it makes me very sad that so many people are turning to stuff like Ozempic with all of its, dangerous additives, side effects, and they're just practically touting it as a miracle drug to the point that people with actual diabetes aren't able to get their GLP-1 receptor medications because everybody got it. And I forgot who it was. Let you Google it and then you can put it on the screen. Look, there is this celebrity. Listen, I don't know these celebrities like that, but she was this one white lady celebrity, and they were like, hey girl, how can you be so happy in this day and age? And she was like, get on beta blockers. Get on beta blockers. Beta blockers are some real medicine, and they're just always consistently touting it as one of the most miracle like a miracle drug. Like it's a real medication.
Wait,
Like
what is a beta? I'm reading it and it says something about,
it literally affects your heart rate and all that. It's like a real medication.
oh
It's
my.
not no fake medication. It's a real medication. I give beta blockers to my patients all the time for their heart rates and their blood pressure. So the fact that I saw this girl on the runway, red carpet, just toting it like it's a Laffy Taffy really pissed me off, because there's gonna be somebody like, oh doctor, I need a beta blocker, da, 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 da. And especially if they have money, they're gonna get it. I hate it when y'all make medications like that into like a trend, because it's not a
Right.
trend. You really need to talk to your doctor before you meet Jesus. Like it will mess you up. And I just feel like watching the substance and watching how Hollywood as a whole is just passing Ozempic, passing Ozempic, passing Ozempic. Like it's just like the newest thing. That's what I felt like the substance is, because we see so many of these celebrities who are especially big celebrities all getting accused of Ozempic allegations. Like even the skinny ones are being accused of using Ozempic, because we all know some of them are actually using
Yeah.
Ozempic. That's what the substance gave to me. Like depending on the state of this country in 10 years, there might be a medication that's like, I don't know, let's call it Tatempic or something like that. Tatempic.
But no, there really are so many like off-brand like substitutions for this, or of Ozempic, that it's like, okay, if I can't get Ozempic, I'm gonna go to the great
Girl,
value version of it, or I'm
yes,
gonna go
you
here.
getting Ozempic from Temu, and then you're gonna be on TikTok like, I got Ozempic from Temu and now I don't have legs. Like I could have told you that for free.
After Elizabeth was fired from Sparkle Your Life, she was driving when on her way home, she spotted her own billboard being torn down, distracting her from the road and causing a collision. Now at the hospital, after she was examined by the doctor, a sketchy nurse suggests that she is the perfect candidate for the substance. The substance is a gruesome procedure that requires you to inject a Gatorade-like substance into your body in order to start the cellular division, releasing the new version of yourself. Release being used literally. After Elizabeth injects the serum, Sue emerges from her back in one of the most gut-wrenching scenes of the whole movie, leaving Elizabeth cold and gaping open on the bathroom floor as Sue attempts to patch up her host with just a needle and thread. And if you're wondering why eggs are $9 a carton, the Substance Lab is hoarding our breakfast and baking ingredients to test their drugs. An at-home kit for this extreme procedure is insane. I was literally like, okay, she's sewing this like a entry level, so I was like, that's how I would sew something, just like huge gaps. I just know it need to go in and need to come out.
No
Tighten it.
sterilization, no alcohol wipes. The fact that it took, I think it was like, because remember it was the month nonsense for it to get infected. That must mean that girl got in the news. It should have got infected day one.
Yeah, well, she kept putting to get more spinal fluid, and it was like starting
no sanitization. She didn't even boil it.
She didn't give a damn. All them jars she brought, I was like, she had to be sitting there, Sue, for like she probably took up her whole day just to get more spinal fluid to fill up all those jars she brought out to extend her time. I was like, that is insane.
That's like a surgery. Spinal surgery, like there's a reason why when women give birth, they be so scared of epidural, because they gotta shove that gigantic thing up your spine.
Look, I just recently figured out what an epidural is. It reminds me of, do you have in The Sims, do you have the Panda-sama realistic childbirth ball? And they'd be like, whoa, that didn't go in right. I have never given my sim an epidural for seeing other people's mood lists. They'd be like, whoa, something's not right. I'm like, wait, what?
I never got that mood lit. I hope that never happened to my Sims, because
I seen that once. It was like, my sim is not getting an epidural.
I think there isn't any one piece. I feel like it's the whole. I feel like, for me, knowing that I was like letting go of actually needing to look good, letting go, and that, I don't know if there's like, I can't say one thing. I think it was tackling the whole.
One of the most fascinating things about the movie to me was how it explores self-worth and identity through Elizabeth and Sue's relationship. As the movie continues, we watch as Sue goes from an appreciation or fascination with her host after she emerges from her body to coming into her own. Over time, seeing Elizabeth as lesser while Sue grows arrogant, while also being the reason for Elizabeth's detriment. It was constantly reiterated that Elizabeth and Sue were not separate, but one. They had to respect the balance, allowing 7 days to regenerate the spinal fluid to nourish the other when their time came. But as time went on, Sue began to feel like her life and her aspirations mattered more than Elizabeth's, to the point of literally creating a room to hide her away. To me, I felt like the creation of the room made it easier for Sue to forget about Elizabeth's existence, versus her just being laid out on the bathroom floor where she could be seen, reminding her of her obligation to the balance. The difference in care that Elizabeth had for Sue during her 7 days was a complete contrast to Sue's for hers. The glaring reason being that Elizabeth felt that Sue deserved her time, while Sue felt the opposite for Elizabeth, feeling like Elizabeth was wasting her days.
I kind of wish that they did more. Like, I felt like when I first started watching it, there was the direct criticisms of like ageism. I think it's a little more societal, but it definitely was just kind of focusing on her role as like a past starlet, and then she kind of is feigning. I feel like once I finished it and I was thinking a lot, I've had like a crazy week, so I was just like reflecting a lot. And I do think that they did a good job, at least like in that middle section of the movie, in addressing how like the feelings of self-worth kind of like snowball, like it continues and it gets like worse and worse and worse. So I did enjoy, at least, I don't know, I did enjoy seeing the spiral of it all, because I do think when you aren't thinking critically of how these things are affecting you, especially when it's like the commentary from just different men or your position at work or whatever, it's like if you're not thinking about it, a lot of it can turn into a giant mess.
I definitely got eating disorder core from both of them. The way that Elizabeth would always, in her moments of anger, turn to violating food, definitely gave like teenage girl who had bulimia, who had some type of eating disorder, who had to either go through a binge purge cycle in order to maintain.
I've noticed that,
maintain her beauty type thing.
I do feel like as time went on, the message of the movie has become lost. While we can still praise Demi for her performance and the message of the movie, that doesn't mean that we can start tearing down women who still participate in the practice of beauty. A takeaway I never understood was the idea that Demi took this role because she was against superficial ideas of beauty, above cosmetic surgery, above feeling insecure. Demi took this role at a low point in her life. While yes, she understood the point of the movie, the point of Coralie's commentary about aging and self-loathing, when she took this role, she herself said that this movie helped her come to a point of acceptance with where she was in her career and aging in the public eye. Demi didn't just take this role and was all in. It took her time to really submit to the vulnerability that was needed to portray Elizabeth. Demi Moore is not above cosmetic surgery and buying into beauty. She wasn't then, and I can assume she isn't now. But Demi is able to hold a mirror to Elizabeth with her own experiences. Self-acceptance is not something that you get to and then it's just over. It's a cycle. We change. Our lives change. And at each turning point, we choose to embrace the change or not.
How could you not think about your relationship with your body while you're making this? I mean, I'm, putting on fake boobs and there's close-up of my butt all day long. Like, it's like, I'm thinking about my body,
And for me, it's a level of exposure, and it was not about feeling like my most glamorous or most attractive or, the best lighting to highlight the things that you like and to darken the things you don't like. But I think part of that is really, this is a journey also, about that trade so often that can happen by chasing something that you think is better. And really the message I always looked at is that it's really about accepting yourself as you are and being an appreciation of all that you have. Because sometimes when we're chasing something that doesn't exist, we lose the very thing that, we wished that we had and never appreciated.
I had asked my DP to keep it in a very real way, not to make a beauty light, not to make a light, that would soften everything. I wanted to see the reality of her face, of what she feels, of what we feel on her face, facing herself. And I remember the first time that she discovered herself in the mirror for the scene, she said, oh no, but we can't have that light. It's not possible. Like, you need to make the light better. You need to make it here and here so we don't see this and we don't see that. And I went to see her, and I told her, like, no, Demi, we can't do that. The movie is exactly about getting this reality about who you are about seeing you in that mirror with all the violence of what that guy has just said, and to see yourself confronting yourself and looking at yourself for what you really are.
My friend Cors made a great point that this movie doesn't really include many people of color. So the lens of this movie is very white feminism, which is maybe why I didn't resonate with the movie at first. But I did find it interesting that the actress that plays Sue, Margaret Qualley, had to wear prosthetic boobs in her role. The intentions of this movie were to portray her as perfect, yet she herself was not perfect enough for the vision of Sue. She talked about how, as a confident person, the character of Sue and her purpose did cause a bit of conflict with her self-image for that reason. She wasn't even this movie's idea of perfection. She had to do extensive workouts to keep her figure, fake boobs to be more busty. Even though she felt like she was enough in her personal life, she all of a sudden wasn't. Margaret was cast in this role due to her background in dance, and that really showed with the extensive routines that they had her doing. In this movie, the casting call for the new Elizabeth Sparkle asked for someone youthful, vivacious, and full of high energy, and I feel like she really delivered. But I also feel like Sue's version of the show set unrealistic expectations for what you would assume the target demographic of the show is. If you're a woman watching the show, you want to achieve the figure that you see on the screen, and you believe that doing exactly what they do, you can get it. A lot of people don't want to admit, but they have a very unhealthy relationship with fitness. The point of working out should be to be healthy, but health has somehow come to correlate to physical appearance. Restricted eating and counting calories and all these cute fun ways to rebrand disordered eating under the guise of a healthy lifestyle. Do what your body agrees with, and don't do what your body doesn't agree with, like being lactose intolerant and still choosing to eat ice cream. Strictly eating fruit for a week will cause you more harm than good. I myself had to come to terms with my own relationship with fitness. I began my fitness journey in my 20s to increase my endurance and my flexibility as someone who was never really athletic, in extreme contrast to my very athletic siblings. I was an asthmatic child who simply just could not do it. But one day I just became obsessed with pushing my body to its limits. It felt empowering to experience my stamina increase, watching as things that were once painful become now easy stuff to do. But once I achieved these goals, there was a shift. I became too consumed with the body image of influencers who I inspired to look like, every day scrolling my feed hoping that if I exercise enough, one day I can look like them. Constantly chasing that small waist fat booty combo, it really did get to a point where my relationship with fitness was now directly correlated with the perception of my body. So working out equals my body looks good, but then when I don't work out, that means that my body doesn't look good. But the reality is you fall off sometimes. Life happens. The constant chase to maintain the perfect figure is a job in itself. And yes, when you stop working out, you lose your results. You're not going to be the stallion that you once were when you worked out for 2 months straight. And you have to be okay with that. As I stated in my previous videos, and I feel like I need to reiterate here, I personally am not against cosmetic surgery. Just like I just spoke about my own relationship with fitness and the lengths that I went through to achieve my dream body, some people choose surgery. The fact still stands that you have to work hard to maintain that image of yourself if you want to keep it. 2 different means, same objective. But if we don't tackle the root of the problem, we will just continue to chase these unattainable beauty standards, some by any means necessary.
But remember the day and age of BBLs, and people were getting BBLs in people's basements and getting like cement in their butts. You're laughing like this is real.
I talked about that in one of my videos with BBLs and things, where it's like now, you know, it's becoming more popular as people try to find the more accessible ways to get these things.
I was gonna be like, when we got the steamy checks, I said, y'all gonna use this on some nonsense. And then I saw them use it on some nonsense. You do not need a BBL. Literally. I know you think you need a BBL. You don't need no BBL.
Sometimes you just gotta turn 25.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need to turn 25 and
or learn to love yourself.
That too, yeah.
Because now that we're going into a more conservative era, all of the big celebrities, if you really pay attention, they're getting rid of their BBLs, and now heroin chic is back in. And if you always let your body image be, I don't know, like,
there's always going to be something else.
You gotta learn to love yourself,
especially if you treat your body image as a trend. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're not like these celebrities who can easily get get a BBL, take out the BBL, get on Ozempic. You're like a regular person.
Exactly.
We're regular people money.
With like veneers and stuff, I know that's like dental, but it's like now teeth is crazy. Like people are literally getting their teeth shaved down to get like,
girl, and you're getting veneers from somebody who's using nail acrylic on your teeth. Let's have a moment of silence for everybody who I'm going to have to see in the hospital in the next 10 years because of this nonsense.
That I just can't believe that people are doing, because I'm like, we are how old, and you're pretty much opting to get dentures at a very young age, when it's like, just take care of your teeth. You'll be all right.
But it's not even that. Just like Elizabeth and just like Sue, people strive for perfection, even if it's going to be at their benefit. People forget that your teeth are bones.
Yeah.
I cannot state that. Like, if you look in your mouth.
I don't even know how I watched this movie. Sorry.
Your teeth are literally bones. So when you get them shaved down, because people don't realize, like the common people, they don't realize in order to get veneers, they need to shave down your teeth into like a sharp edge. And then they place little, I don't even know, like plaque things on the sharpened points.
Yeah.
You know? You're cooked. It's not like a BBL where you can take it out and you can have a semblance of something. You can't be like, I don't want any veneers anymore. Because now you look like Shark Boy versus Lava Girl. And now...
When I seen what pretty much the first step of what they have to do to actually put the veneers in, I was like, that would horrify me. Like, are people just forgetting about Invisalign? Like, neither options are cheap. One, dental procedures are not cheap.
It's a commitment. Nobody will put themselves in that position unless they have extreme body image issues. Right. And that's why I definitely think Elizabeth has some type of either bulimia or eating disorder, because there's no way you continually put yourself through that awful process. You're literally seeing yourself withering away and be okay with it.
And it's the fact that the nurse that gave it to her wasn't even like the host. It was the double that's like, oh yeah, this is a great thing. This will be very beneficial for you. It's like, but then when she actually met the host, he was like how much is she taking from you? And she's like, what? No.
Everything.
Like, yeah, everything.
I can think of so many times trying on a different outfit, like it's not working, because the truth is, if your inside doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter what the fuck you put on. It doesn't matter how good the makeup is, you're not going to feel good. And in that arc of going from a sliver of hope to stepping out of that self-imposed prison to absolute, complete annihilation of self-loathing and self-hate, it's such a short span, but it just kind of encompasses so much for me of what we can do to ourselves when we give too much power and meaning to what others think, as opposed to how we hold ourselves.
I felt like that was actually the best scene in the movie, though. Like her spiraling in the bathroom. I felt like that was very real, because your insecurities do eat at you in that way, at least. I think the movie kind of positions her as she was like the it girl, and she was kind of like slowly on the decline, but she still had her own niche with the fitness thing or whatever. And I think that at that moment, it kind of like clicked in her head where she realized that, like, I don't want to say realized, but she felt like, oh, there isn't really much I can do. Because even like when she got the date, I like, aside from me like judging the dude or whatever, but I was just like, all right, like I was like, oh, this is kind of what you need though. You do need a little bit of like just a confidence boost and to experience somebody who values you a little more than the people who are around you. I felt like at the point that she was like but coming to feel like there isn't anything I can do to at least to be like I was, that crippled her more than she felt like the desire to go out and be, validated for the night.
Right. I felt like that would have been good for her. Like, even though we were just talking about like, seeking outside validation, it should come from within. But it's like at the same time, like the whole world kind of went against you. So just to go out one night to be like, okay, one person doesn't think I'm like horrible or I'm not worth anything anymore.
You just need an easy win.
Exactly. And it was literally, and even still when she called him and he was like, oh, I thought you were never gonna call me. And she's like, oh no. I was like, oh, she definitely wasn't. I was like, she definitely forgot. But then in that moment where she was low, she was like, oh wait, somebody does like me. But still didn't make it out the door. I was like, oh, that would have been a good night for her. But
it would have been. And I don't know. I liked it just to see like
I would have loved to see it. Yeah.
I definitely think it was an insecurity issue. When you're watching the entire substance, you realize that it's so much subtext. I got like childhood eating disorder core from Elizabeth, because to me she looked great.
Yeah.
And we already know that like the guy from high school was feeling her, because even when she was having that bad day, she was fired. She was literally huffing and puffing.
Yes.
I don't even, was this after she got in a car accident? It was after she got in a car accident.
Yeah, she had literally came from the doctor and he gave her the little flash drive. Yep.
Yes. So she
having
was
a horrible birthday.
Damn mess. But homie saw her and almost dropped to his knees.
Literally.
That's how badly he needed that. So if a dude is able to be like, damn, that's my fine shit, after a car accident, you think after you put on your little outfit, do your little makeup, he not gonna be feeling you?
Right.
But she's like, she has such an insecurity issue, especially after Sue. Even though she put on her makeup and she was feeling herself, she was like, no, I need more makeup, I need more concealer, this, that. She could not deal with the fact that she's old, but she don't realize she's old and she's still fine.
Right, you still got it, girl. You still got, like, auntie gotta have a life too, and auntie needed to get a life.
Yes, and it was just so sad because she was walking, she's ready to leave the house, and then she saw the billboard of Sue.
Yes, that's why I'm like, Sue was just everywhere, and it was like a reminder of like everything that she wasn't. And essentially that was the reason why she lost her job, was they were trying to get a younger crowd in. And so it's like, literally, it's crazy that Sue is you know, a better version of you, like they would say. But it's like, girl, you still got, I literally was like, she looks good. And she was feeling herself ready to walk out the door. And I was like, why she keep going back? And then just ruin her makeup. I was like, no, the makeup, like, you don't need to change the lip. You don't need more concealer. You looked perfect.
And when I'm telling you, I was pissed that auntie never got a hobby, because she kept, I know they were treating her like she was old and decrepit, but like, girl, you couldn't get no friends.
She could have. Is the craziest thing is that she literally could have. Someone literally invited you on a date. Like, not that a date is like friends, but just like go outside.
You need to start somewhere. Violating that turkey. Violating that turkey and get you nowhere, sis. It's a mess.
With the knowledge that Sue is created from Elizabeth, I developed this lingering question. Did Sue and Elizabeth actually have free will? Was Sue truly choosing to ignore Elizabeth, or was she just the personification of the self-loathing that Elizabeth had for herself? And did Elizabeth ever really have a chance to fight for herself, or was her selfishness something that she was bound to?
So I definitely think that Sue had a bunch of free will, because yes, you know, they're all technically the same person, but Sue was extremely selfish. They all came into the agreement that I have 7 days, you have 7 days. That's how we keep the equilibrium. The people who made the substance made it that way so that you, as the Matrix, I think they called it in the movie, would be able to regenerate spinal fluid. But Sue was so selfish throughout the entirety of the movie, always continually wanting longer days.
Sue was definitely more egotistical than Elizabeth, in my opinion. Like, towards the end, when, you know, things went completely left, like, Sue got pretty evil. And I'm like, Elizabeth had a little bit more care.
But you know, that makes me question, what was Elizabeth like when she was younger? Like, for real.
Right, that's
true.
Know? That's true.
I don't know. Like, I do think, I don't know. I agree with you in the sense of like, Sue was, she was wilding. Like, she got very cutthroat towards the end. She was talking crazy. I'm like, all right, this is not what I expected. But I feel like I just can't tell how connected these two entities are from one another. I think, I feel like with Elizabeth's kind of like downward spiral and her like connection to Sue, I think at some point she does want to be Sue. Like, I don't know if it's just like the imagery of it. It's like, she wants to have those rights, so she wants to be able to move like that, act like that. So I don't know. I'm very lost in that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was hard for me to grasp how much they were alike, because it's like Sue is created from Elizabeth. Literally her, you know, her very essence, and what gives her strength and her beauty is like Elizabeth's spinal fluids.
At first, I thought I was kind of critical. I was like, "Oh, come on!" But I do think that when you're, I do think that like we all kind of have like our vices, you know, whether it's like ice cream or whatever. It's like,
right.
Eventually, once you kind of are given some kind of like free pass into like indulging in a vice, whether it's even if it's just like vanity for vanity's sake, it does. I feel like it naturally snowballs. Like people have addictive personalities, and once she kind of got to that tipping point, even when she met that old dude at the I don't remember what, like the
It
diner.
was like a diner, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, all right, once she kind of like see that, it's like, oh, this is what this does. Like,
exactly.
This is something that you kind of have to make peace with, because if you're still trying to reach back into your glory days, you're gonna crash out.
If you remember, they got an after party scene, and she brought that guy back to her apartment, and she's literally like bleeding over him, and she goes and steals more days. After what Elizabeth goes on that binger and violates the hell out of that turkey, Sue takes 3 months.
Like 1 day versus 3 months.
3 months.
Is a lot of time. And what it took from her after that 1 day, I was like, yeah, 3 months, there's probably not going to be anything left. And then they were asking Elizabeth when she came back, she's like, she violated, like she is overdoing it. They're like, do you want to stop the experience?
And she said no.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying when I say Sue has all the free will, because it's greediness. Everybody knows that she's the it girl, and I definitely feel like she had the power in the industry, especially with the fact that she was using the excuse of I'm taking care of my sick mom. I know if this was our reality and there was a new it girl and she was popping off like this, and she's just like, I can't go to this event because I need to take care of my mom with cancer. Everybody will be like, she has a heart of a saint.
And
like
the fact that she used that as the reason why she can't is like, you know what image you're trying to put out there to portray yourself as, which is why Elizabeth was probably pissed off.
Exactly. And the fact that she knows what taking extra days does to Elizabeth.
Exactly.
Because she
sees her every time they switch.
Because the 7 days allowed everybody to maintain a certain equilibrium. They could have kept this charade going on for years until even Sue got old.
For real.
When you think about it.
For real.
But because of the fact that they're greedy, that's how he had that.
It lasted like what, 4 months, I would say?
Tops. Their desire to be the top girl always had that cost. Because I'm just thinking, if this is how Sue is acting in this situation, imagine younger Elizabeth. Younger Elizabeth must have been so cutthroat, because especially as an older woman, for her to have no friends and for her to have no family means she had to burn a lot of bridges in order to get there. When Sue went on the talk show and she was practically saying, I grew up in a small town, I'm doing this for my family, all I could think about is that Elizabeth right now is practically being ostracized by the media industry as a whole, and the only person to check up on her is a high school classmate. You ain't got no girlfriends?
Yeah.
That must mean that she must have done anything and everything to get to where she is at now.
For real.
Cutting off any friendship, any familial ties. And I just feel like that relates to why I feel like they couldn't control themselves, because they had that insatiable greed. Because as a woman, I think they said she's a 50-year-old woman. A 50-year-old woman with no network is insane.
And then she got dropped from her own show and didn't have any opportunities outside of that. It's
like she didn't have an agent?
Where is your circle of people that are going to ensure that you are set up for your next move, or just people in your ear to be like, oh,
your agent? She is utterly alone. Her neighbors don't give a hell about her. Did you peep that?
He was pissed when it was Elizabeth. He was ready to knock the door down. Then he seen it was Sue. He's like, oh. I'm like, dang, they must got beef prior to this, because
I'm telling you, she has no one. So her need to be the top meant that she sacrificed a lot of people to get there. And if you're ready to sacrifice family, friends, and everything else to get to the top, I mean, we see what happened in the movie. She was ready to sacrifice her life.
After Elizabeth was fired from Sparkle Your Life, the advertisements went out almost immediately, with Sue taking her place. As time went on, Sue began to climb the social ladder and gain a lot of public favor for her hit aerobic show, Pump It Up, leaving Elizabeth at home to wither away in her armchair eating TV dinners. Elizabeth always respected the balance, while Sue did not. For example, to continue her little late night creep with a motorcycle hottie with the body, Sue took an extra day to get her rocks off before switching with Elizabeth. Sue's one single night of pleasure turned Elizabeth's chance at a two-finger combo into a carpal tunnel catastrophe. I'm sorry, okay, bad joke aside, although this is what Elizabeth wanted, who truly benefited from the substance?
Definitely Sue.
I definitely have to say Elizabeth.
Why do you think so?
The world was her oyster. Everything just opened up for her. Everything that she wanted, she got. So
Right.
I definitely feel like once Elizabeth kind of was in that, she was wilding, like everything was she was just not having a good time. Everything was going bad for her, especially like the finger, everything. Like once that kind of came into what her experience was off of the substance or on her own time, I felt like there was nothing that made this a fair trade at that point.
Right.
If you're not even you don't even recollect it, you don't even get to experience all the highs of it. And also the fact that the part of you that is experiencing the highs is disrespecting the amount of time that you get to experience like normalcy or whatever. I do think that kind of just tipped the scale really bad. Like it was just bad.
Because we have to remember, even though they split each other into like Sue and Elizabeth, at the end of the day, what the operator of this whole substance organization kept trying to tell them is that they are the same person. Elizabeth knew that because of her age, there's no way she could get that limelight. That's why instead of getting a hobby, joining a knitting club, going on that date with that guy from her high school, she decided to let Sue suck her of her youth because she needed that attention. She needed that limelight. She needed that fast life. And even though it was killing her, she decided that, hey, just for a sprinkle of that taste, she was willing to do anything. So even though it was obviously Sue who got to enjoy the actual rewards of it, Elizabeth still was able to feel the high of the substance, of the transformation.
Coralie began writing this script when she was in her 40s, a period in many women's lives that are pivotal for self-rediscovery. These days, it feels like 30 is the new 40. Women start to feel like their life is over when really your life has just begun.
I would say the one thing that gives this story, bring this story to life, I think would be my life. Since I'm a kid, I think about how, I have to live with my own image and how I learned to be super violent about it. And it made me feel that I was never good enough. And at each age, you have a reason that you can find that something not enough. And I questioned myself about the violence of it. And when I was past my 40s and aiming to my 50s, it became even more violent that now this is it. I'm going to be erased. It's the end of it. And I felt that it was so absurd, but at the same time so real, this thought being here, that I wanted to say, okay, I have to do something with it. It's time now to kind of say enough.
When I rewatched this movie for this video, I found it extremely ironic that same day I had watched one of my favorite movies, which is Monster-in-Law with Jennifer Lopez and Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda's character, Viola, was dealing with the same dilemma. She aged out of her position and was then replaced with the young, hot intern. The movie is literally hilarious and is a great example for some of the worst boy moms. But interestingly enough, Elizabeth's character is actually based on Jane Fonda's real life. Coralie chose to have Elizabeth Sparkle host an aerobics class inspired by Jane Fonda's transition from a successful actress to her second career starring in exercise tapes. After overhearing her boss Harvey call her old and washed, Elizabeth never saw herself the same way. Where before she may have noticed she was aging in the face of the world and got a little poke and prod here and there, she was still the star of the show. which was validating. It wasn't until she began to be pushed to the side that she began to feel like she might not be who she thought she was. I feel like we have a warped perception of what people look like at these ages, and that could be due to the media, and I'm sure I talked about this in another video. Many actresses speak on how they start getting offered grandmother roles as early as the age of 30, with the flip side of this being women in their 20s still being offered teen roles. This is not a reflection of most people's real lives. Most of our grandmothers were not in their 30s, and teenagers don't look like 20-somethings. But the choice of these castings will have you think otherwise. Aging is beautiful. Aging is a blessing. 30 is not old. And we have to be kinder to our bodies and ourselves. One thing that we do when we come to a point of evolution is talk down on our past selves. She was ugly. She couldn't dress. She needed more self-respect. With the goal of some's evolution being to dead the person that they once were, to bury them. But with aging comes the gift of hindsight. We can reflect. We can understand who that girl was better than anybody else could. You have to give her grace. Although you weren't kind to her back then, you should work to be kind to her now. Because maybe that's what that girl needed.
I can look back at 20, 30, 40, at all certain moments where I was so harsh and critical of myself. And I mean, in ways that like I would never have done to anybody else. Like I mean, which in a way, you know, you were talking about the kind of the prosthetics. For me, the degrading part of it was literally always this idea of, if we could create a physical manifestation of what it looks like, the way in which we can talk to ourselves, the way, like, what would that look like? And it was like, that's almost like, that is it.
Society hates and treats older women like they're the scum of the earth. We see the guy who is being so mean to Elizabeth after Sue is doing all of the construction in the apartment. He's literally about to curse her and tear her a new one. But when he sees that it's young, sexy Sue, he's like, oh, make as much noise as you want, sexy lady. And
Like,
then
he got a damn chance.
And then the guy that Sue has sex with, the motorcycle guy, the
Yeah.
way he treats Sue, like he
That was
isn't parked
jarring.
in front of her house. Move!
I literally was like, I was froze just like her like that. I was like,
I was
like,
shocked.
this is Sue. They're separate, but I'm like,
or you could think that that's her mama, you know?
yeah, like, or
They
maybe
look alike.
just be kind. Like,
Yeah. That too.
that too.
That
I'm like, he's so mad because what, Sue didn't call him back? Like, you gotta take it out on
he's so
everybody.
mad because he's hot and young, and he's like, "Who's this old crone that's blocking me from being young and lit?" Practically.
To drive off on his motorcycle to peel out. Like, okay, this isn't a movie. This is a movie, but you're not in one.
Yes, and the way they consistently are talking about her looks and how she's old. Mind you, she's actually really attractive. I don't know if you guys remember this, but this lady, she's actually peak. She's actually peak. That's why she's literally doing exercise videos until her age.
Literally.
But they're treating her like she's the scum of the earth, and I hate that.
Just
for
because
her.
the number that she hit in her age, it's like she's still actively doing this. And then the fact that when Sue got the position, how, like you said, they had her in the skimpier outfits, and they really upped the sex appeal of the dance moves. Like, as I was watching it, I'm like, okay, Elizabeth makes sense, just stomp around, move your body a little bit, burn some calories. But I'm like, I was like, who's gonna be doing the suit exercises at home? Like,
it literally was
I'm
just for men. And you could tell because all of the creepy guys kept being like, "Oh, hey, I saw your thing, girl."
Like, are you doing the exercises? I don't know. I don't think so. That is weird and creepy.
It was really more about the violence that we can have against ourselves, which is really not really tied to any age, which is why I think that the film has kind of touched a real authentic place. Because I can look back and look at my 20s, 30s, 40s, and on up to where I am now, where I found ways to criticize myself. And I think the beauty in this was that exploration. I think being in the public eye just heightens it, but I think we all experience that self-judgment.
The monster. The fact that it has so many boobs, and I'm like, I wonder what that was about. Because
I'm not gonna lie, in a lot, because you know me, I'm a horror movie. Like, I love me a good horror movie. A lot of horror movies, I love horror movies. I really do. That's why I wasn't too shocked, but I was still like, oh my god.
Yeah.
we are disgusted with old women. Have you watched Maxine or that franchise?
Is that like the Pearl movies?
Is the Pearl movies.
I haven't seen them yet.
Literally, one of the first one that came out, I forgot it was called X, or the main villain is a naked woman with saggy boobs who attacks our young, fresh protagonist. The same thing with Barbarian.
I was about to say, that makes me think of Barbarian.
Barbarian.
That's how the monster was in that movie.
We are disgusted by old women. I don't know if it's because of Roe v. Wade. I don't know if that connects either. A lot of women are afraid of what's aging, what motherhood will do to their bodies. But the fact that it keeps being a notorious trend or whatever,
right,
where all of the villains are just, because why are you naked? Put on some clothes. How do you always end up naked? Like, and I know it's a specification of women because there's never an old man with his testicles swinging. No. It's always a woman with her, like, it's always like
that would be horrific for sure.
I would scream. It's never justice. That's why when you were talking about, how do you think society treats old men? Not like how they treat old women.
No, because even in the movie itself, when Sue literally drained all the essence from Elizabeth, and they had that shot from Elizabeth's butt, and then it flipped to the other guy's butt. I was like, okay, we didn't need a POV.
I saw that. I was like, what? And his butt was all types of perky too. I said,
what? Yeah, I was like, are they trying to show us the compare and contrast of the two? I was really like, we didn't need the other side of the door. Like, I didn't like, okay.
And his butt was just jiggling too. I was just like
okay. And I'm like, that makes me think too, because I'm like, that was maybe the only instance of like a naked male that we've seen in the movie.
But then it's done to degrade the older woman.
Yeah.
Like, how can his butt be so firm and perky and yours are so old and saggy?
It was really sitting and jiggling. I was like,
it was because then remember when he ran away too? I said, we don't need these booty shots.
No,
am I tripping?
You were not tripping. I was thinking that immediately. Second time around, I forgot. I was like,
no, I noticed that immediately because they do that a lot, like the shower scenes between Sue and Elizabeth. They do that on purpose.
Kind of what came out of it was this idea of like not wasting time focusing on all that you're not when you could be celebrating all that you are. Because it's all those things that are imperfect, the quirks, the interesting things that actually make us interesting and desirable. And like that idea of chasing something, even our youth, like why not like chase the beauty of the wisdom that we have today, this reclaimed energy that we have, that we're like, when we start to move past childbearing and moving into these other kind of phases where all of a sudden we can be reignited with fire.
Great dancer. Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose.
A pivotal character that was the detriment of Elizabeth's self-worth was her boss, Harvey, who was played by Dennis Quaid, who was cast after the passing of Ray Liotta. Harvey constantly showed a blatant disregard for her or any women's respect, and his whole goal was the objectification of their bodies. Coralie talked about the shrimp scene and how she was shocked that that was the most uncomfortable scene for everybody who watched the movie. But she said that that scene was symbolism to show how he just devours things. He just eats them up and spits them out. How our introduction to his character is quite literally to show him peeing on us, the audience. I think that when we as cisgender women censor our image around men, we have to remember that that includes men like Harvey as well, not just the ones that we like and are attracted to. Participating in misogyny and feeding into the patriarchy is not just a men's problem, it's a trickle down that affects us all. Some women believe that they aren't misogynistic just because they vocally other themselves from women who practice beauty from the gaze of men, trying to get us to believe that their lack of makeup or wearing maxi dresses is self-serving. When in reality, performing beauty for the male gaze and shaming the women who do is just two sides of the same performance. I saw this video about practicing modesty in the gym, and the reasoning in the video was that your body is not for the world to see, but for your husband. Now, I'm not about to get into the layers of that conversation and, other people's religious practices, because that is quite literally not my place. But safety hazards aside, this is something that I noticed in the fitness community that really bothers me. Like, I'll follow a fitness influencer for inspo, like, yeah, she's free, booty poking, abs out. And then she gets into a relationship with a man And all of a sudden now she starts preaching modesty and how women shouldn't flaunt their bodies to show off to the world. And it's so annoying because to me, it's not self-serving. It's for the service of men. Dennis Quaid's character, I can't think of his name, and I probably should have noted it down. But her boss, he was like,
yes, he was gross. He was gross.
He was gross. That's the word.
Ew, P.U.
And he pretty much had his nerve the whole time. So I wanted to ask, how did you interpret the role of men in this movie, from her boss to the guy that liked her? Do you contribute Elizabeth's struggles to the men in her life, or were they just bystanders?
I definitely think that the men in her life had a huge role to play in it. I definitely thought it was interesting that a lot of what we face in the real life in terms of sexism comes from women. Your mother, your sister, your friends, your female co-workers, older ladies that just be coming up to you and just harassing you just for the vibes of it. But when you really peep game, you don't really see that. The only female antagonist in Elizabeth's life was herself and Sue. She was her worst, biggest hater. A lot of the external hatred that she got was from men and the way that they viewed her. The fact that her boss continued to make that gross additive, like, a woman's fertility ends at 25. Okay.
Like, what does that have to do with us making workout video?
He was just a gross, disgusting man. Like, the fact that he never showed her any respect after she turned 50, eating that disgusting shrimp, like, with no regard for her. As soon as she became like old to him, he treated her like she was the scum of earth, like the scum of the earth, like she had no value. The fact that we had all of these really weird, like 18 plus, like skirt up scenes of Sue, and the fact that they never let her wear real people clothes when being with these executives, it really gave casting couch. So obviously the way these male producers viewed Sue and obviously viewed Elizabeth definitely changed her fundamentally, because if this is how they're treating like a barely legal Sue, how do you think they treated a barely legal Elizabeth? Obviously that changed her perception. The fact that when they were doing the New Year's Eve event and all the executives are literally hounding Sue and they're like, smile, that's what you're here for, smile, when it's so obvious that she's stressed. Like, like give a girl some type of help her.
Yeah, literally.
And I knew, like, the movie
He's like, oh, why aren't you smiling? Pretty girls should always smile.
They smile, yeah.
She
didn't even do that because she couldn't show teeth. She said, there was never any older female executives. All the old men, except for the one guy who gave Sue the hookup to the substance, were older men in power. There was never an older woman in power. Going to show you that even when, because I feel like in an alternate ending or in an alternate universe, Sue should have gotten fired for not being the new sexy young thing, but she should have became an executive. She knows how this industry is. She should have at least had a seat at the table, but literally all of them were old white men. I
feel like the way that the movie kind of presented them, they were adding to the pressure or to the viewpoint of being like, oh, I have to hide this, or I have to, like, me being old means that I'm not enough or I'm not able anymore. So I think that they kind of just compounded on that. And especially, I thought it was at least cool in the sense of like how they, like, these are all older men too, like, dudes are,
they're probably like the same age as
it was bad. Some of them were probably younger and they were looking rough too. So it's like, when it comes to like insecurities like that, I think that there's like a crazy factor. Like it makes you feel like what you're perceiving isn't real, because when you look at the person who's saying it to you and you're trying to like place it in how they perform and how they're received versus how you perform, how you're received, it creates that like disconnect that kind of compounds on the feeling of like, all right, whatever I'm chasing is attainable, but it's also like the only way I can get that like respect or whatever.
Right. So like placing value in their opinions or how they value you is also how you value yourself, instead of it starting from within.
And when especially when their value system is like, it's nonsense.
It's nonsense. Exactly. I'm like, the stuff that they had Sue doing, I was just like, how do, like, Elizabeth's workout videos, I was like,
how did we get here?
how did we, it was a big jump, just like the end of the movie. I didn't understand how they were even going to be doing this at home. I'm like, you got to be a ballerina. You got to be doing all, like super flexible.
Yeah.
And stamina got to be all the way up high. But what killed me in Sue's was the fact that they had like a whole camera designated to her butt.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, like why did we need that angle?
Literally, why? For an exercise video. It was just like, okay, so I see what you guys are up to. I see what you guys really were up to and what the idea was when you fired Elizabeth. It's like pretty much maybe nobody wants to see that, and now we can really do what we wanted to do.
We're going a different direction, you know.
And we've seen the direction, unfortunately.
Ain't nobody watching this to do no damn exercise.
No, not it. Because it's like, how the hell did her neighbor across the way see this? Now, they do got that big ass billboard out there, but it's just like, you regularly watch Pump It Up. I don't know about that one.
But I'm telling you right now, if it was a cooking show where this issue was happening on,
it was the outside world attacking this person, right? Like that's how it feels, right? When you have that inner dialogue in yourself about, you know, both the inner dialogue, but it feels like it's coming from the outside. And all of the comments about beauty and what was necessary for a woman to keep going in this world, even to be worthy of being alive, was coming from, you know, the film producer, the direct, you know, the TV producer, the outside world, the imagery, billboards, all these things that inundate us on a daily basis. And
I do feel like, I feel like the men played their part, especially in creating that, the environment that would cause somebody to spiral like that.
So how do you think that, because they did show a perspective of that guy that she met in the diner that also used the substance, how do you think that they could have better shown how beauty standards are for men in these industries, or just in general?
That's a good question. I didn't think about that.
I didn't even write that. I was just thinking because we were talking about
freestyle.
my bad.
No, you got me.
Yeah.
How do I feel about men?
Girl, they do a little commentary about aging men, but they do not get the same vitriol as aging women, and we see that at every aspect. I really wish we would have got more of a POV of the man's perspective, but it isn't about the man, because at the end of the day, you know, our society hates younger women. That's why one of the first lines in the movie is a disgusting, grimy producer saying, you know, a woman starts to lose her fertility at 25. Like, we're not making freaking movies. Like, are you trying to get pregnant by watching exercise videos? What are we talking about? This movie is really talking about how men view women in our society, because if you peep, this guy is also a douchebag to his wife. So when Elizabeth gets fired, he gives her a gift that they all pitched in for, and it's a fucking cookbook.
I feel like adding a male counterpart to it might have kind of diluted it more in that sense. I don't know, like every character in this movie is white. Like I feel like we don't get no like race kind of angle to it.
Peep that.
Yeah, it's like like we don't get a lot of dynamics to this like idea of what the substance can do. It's like they like you don't get any other context for like how like society pressures you and like corrodes your sense of self. So I do feel like I wish that we could have gone further in that direction, and I don't know how they would have tackled it in the male ideal, because I just don't even know, because even in that movie it was like an intentional idea to have these guys be like completely clueless of like like the dude that was trying to like get the date with her. It's like there's no and you know, bless his heart, but like there was no context of being like, who are you walking up to, like where, like what's the dynamics here. But I do think that was like intentional to kind of like add to the sense of like even the next door neighbor, like it's just like add to the sense of being like, oh, I must be crazy because this is not it.
And then the fact that they even just like shoved that box at her and dug the gift out from the bottom of that stuff. I was like, so this is just an afterthought.
But like I keep saying, do you notice how there's never anyone else? You didn't have an assistant that was with you for like 10 years to be like, I'm gonna miss you, Miss Lizzie.
Literally. Yeah.
No one cared. No one.
And it was the fact that I always forget, because it was a horrible day for her, that it was her birthday. Also, when she got fired and heard all that stuff. And they're just like, oh, happy birthday. She get in the car. I was like, she is having the worst day.
Like, I'm meant to be playing perfect, right? And like, no one can fucking play perfect. No one's perfect. It wasn't my idea of perfect. Now it's, you know, I'm going to what Coralie's idea of perfect is within the concept of her, you know, under male gaze, within the context of her story, right? But even that is kind of impossible to do, you know, like we're relying on prosthetics and working out and all these things. But I guess just like the reality is that I didn't realize how like emotionally challenging that was going to be, to try to look perfect. So trying to be kind to myself throughout that process, and like protect myself within that, as naturally you kind of never feel perfect. In life, I'm pretty okay with that, you know, like I like what is different about me, and I can be pretty nice to myself, but when the idea is to play quote unquote perfect, it can be really hard. So I guess I'm proud of like not losing my mind.
In many ways, life imitates art. We ask ourselves if something like the substance is possible in our reality, but in many ways we have our own versions of it. But if we did have this technology, how would it be used in our world? Did Killian have to turn those army vets into weapons of mass destruction in Iron Man 3? Or could he have used extremists for good? And of course, more relevantly, could the substance be used in a positive way, or will it inevitably be exploited?
A positive way. Substance used in a positive way.
Yeah, that's kind of an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you feel like, because I think that you have like the beauty aspect of it, but also there's like a functional, like, do you feel like people could get enough value out of just being like young and handy for a day or for a week or whatever?
That is an interesting question to flip on me as well.
Wow, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm. The fact that it was given to people in the Hollywood elite instead of kids with no limbs showed you exactly what kind of timing we're on. You could cure so many diseases with that, like all of the organs you could make, but you're giving it to Elizabeth freaking Sparkle.
As far as using it like this, it seems like they're like targeting people in this like beauty industry, entertainment industry.
Definitely.
And Elizabeth was having like the worst birthday, the worst day of her life, to be honest. And he's like feeling on her spine and like, oh yeah, you're a perfect candidate, just seeing how low she was.
Yeah.
And she took it. She took the substance and she, you know, applied it.
You see, like in my brain, I was like very shallow. I'm like, damn, like, what if I got like a second chance to like go back to high school and play basketball or something? Like, you know, like it's like, how can you like come up off of it? But I do think that in that case, like in terms of like just helping people like be a little more able, that makes a lot of sense. And
right, like a medical advancement instead of like what they were using it for. I can see that. I personally didn't really have an answer like you because I was like, the way this movie went, there was just like way too many examples to like in the movie that I was just like, no. And the people that Elizabeth was surrounded by and the
what do you mean?
Like in her work and the lack of people in her personal life, it was just kind of like, I feel like that was inevitable for her to go down that road with her use of the substance. It seems like that is their target demographic, I guess. That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
The only people who would be willing to do some nonsense like the substance are people with extreme image issues.
Yeah.
Extreme image issues. We see this exactly in the guy who even got Elizabeth hooked in the first place.
Now that was a crazy turn of events.
I knew it. There's no way. Nobody with no sense is gonna do nothing like that. Imagine you at your doctor's appointment. You just got in a car crash and somebody tells you to meet you in a back alley. As Elizabeth Sparkle, you want me to come to a back alley? I'm getting shake tonight.
I didn't really know what time frame the movie took place in, because like sometimes it seemed like older and then sometimes it seemed super modern.
Yeah, then she
So I was
puts a
like,
USB in her TV. I'm like, what?
watch the
That,
video.
I was like, I
Like,
literally
one, that's scary. Like, don't take no flash drive from somebody and plug it into any of your devices. Like, what? That she wasn't thinking with it. And that too, I'm like, the whole thing was just sketchy. The place that she went to go get the fluids.
you crawling into it.
Like, it just, things went way too far that I was like, there's no way that this can end good. Like, there's no way.
The fact that you have to go and get the the fact that you have to go and get the substance, I was like, why can't they deliver it? Why can't I?
Exactly. It was super, and then the door didn't even open up all the way, so she had to crawl underneath. When I watched it the first time, I was like, okay, if I were to get that far, the part where the door, that would have been the point where it's like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Like, the door isn't open all the way. I gotta crawl under. Like, this is just, I'm not doing all this. I'm turning around and going home. But it was just too many moments where it was like, she can stop right here. She can stop right here. Like, for like outside of the door part, the finger. I was like, when Sue didn't respect the balance the first time, I was like, now at that point, I would be like, she's gonna keep abusing this. I can't trust her.
Yeah.
I can't trust her to do anything but to respect the balance.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're freaking Elizabeth
She
Sparkle.
just had that coat, them glasses, in a dream. Like, this is crazy. The lengths that she went to even get that substance. I would be like, is this a trusted thing? Like, the nurse, it was like, waited till the doctor to go out to give me this. I would be like,
as an actual nurse, red flag, ding, 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 ding. I was watching this. I said, there's no Baka way this is happening right in front of my
y'all
face.
doing some under the table stuff around here. A lot of recent pieces of media have touched on the idea of separating the worst parts of ourselves from the best parts, finding ways to detach ourselves from our pain, insecurities, and shortcomings instead of working through them. I just recently finished Severance and I noticed some similarities in the themes, so spoiler warning beyond this point if you have not seen Severance. I'm not going to get into too much of it, but I will be talking Severance, so spoiler warning. Like Severance, I think Elizabeth was burdened with the lack of a work-life balance and the control that corporate had on her life. Like Mark, Elizabeth chose to be separate from her worst self to give her better self a chance. But just like Mark had to learn, you are one. Although you have different lives, your innie is you. They get everything from you. Your morals, your mannerisms, your passions, your vices, your flaws, all while never experiencing your pain. Pretty much the Severance procedure, I'm not about to spoil anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. But it's pretty much just like separating, it's like a work-life balance where you get a procedure where you separate your work life from your home life. And I felt like I was watching this show and then I rewatched The Substance to talk to you guys. And I was like, that's interesting that these are like two pieces of media that kind of deal with that like separation of those things, where it's like Elizabeth pretty much created like a whole new person that she's not even like awake and conscious to like know what the other person is up to, but that's like her better self. And then like your work self, like in Severance, is like the part of yourself that you don't really want to deal with, because it's like, you know, that dread of just like going into work, or people don't really know how to have a work-life balance. So it's like, how about we just separate the two, so you don't really know what's going on when you're at work until you get off work, and then you can still have your life. My question to that was, do you think that something like The Substance or the Severance procedure in these pieces of media could be beneficial in the real world? So it's kind of like a similar question to the previous one, but
a little more context.
A little more context.
Okay, so what I was thinking about in that sense, I didn't think about in the prior version of the question, but is it mean to do that? Like, it's like the Severance procedure kind of like, is that unethical? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are forcing somebody to do that, I feel like you're kind of getting the benefits out of somebody without allowing them to have their own kind of control of them, like themselves. I feel like, and that's like the double-edged sword with versus, I guess, I don't know what Severance is about or like how it goes, but Severance procedure,
whatever you think, I'm listening.
Versus what's it called? The substance. Like the difference, I feel like if you have that, I don't know if it's free will, if you are just kind of unabashed in your desires, if that is the better way to handle it, is that, I don't even know. Cause I'm like, at the end of the day, it's like, what is the point? Like, what are you actually gaining from separating yourself? You know, like
that's
like
true. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, in theory, that sounds like, oh yeah, like I would love to not have to worry about spending 8 hours of my day, or like, you know, that feeling, if you're at a job that you don't like, at least, where it's just like, oh, like I'm here for like 8 hours, some people 12, and it's like, that's my whole day. But then it's like, how about I just not, how about I just not remember what happens when I go in there and I come out.
I feel like that just, I don't know. People are always trying to get away out of, I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's so many layers. It's so many layers, but I do feel like in just going and saying like, oh, how do I not remember work? I don't think that's like the ideal way to stop it. Or how do I go back to when I was young? I feel like maybe we should address the pressures of, or like all of the toxic ways that we address older people, or the way that we just kind of dismiss them. I feel like that maybe will help you feel better rather than like going back, you know?
I am a pessimist, and in our current political landscape, I would not, and this is coming from me as a nurse. If they ever release some nonsense like that, I'm telling you, don't go, no, sign up, especially if you're Black. They are gonna
don't sign up.
I'm telling you this, do not go sign up.
My under the table operation would be telling y'all not to do it.
They are gonna make you a slave. I promise this God is my witness. They are gonna make you a slave.
Absolutely.
Don't do that, Ish.
No.
I would never trust, and this is coming from me as a nurse, don't ever trust no nonsense like that. Are you crazy? No. Like, in this country, they're gonna turn you into a slave. I ain't even gotta explain it. They're gonna turn you into a slave.
Immediately.
You're gonna wake up and you're gonna be in handcuffs, and you're gonna be like, why am I in handcuffs? And they're gonna be like, oh, your work self did a crime and now you're facing 20 to life, and they're gonna have you in some type of prison labor camp.
Like, because God is my witness, that would kill me. I would be like, wait, they literally would be in there fighting. The harm that would be inflicted on them would literally be because of the employees in the building. And then they would be like, oh no, you just bumped your head, or oh no, you had a slip and fall. It's like,
I don't trust that. I don't trust that at all. They're probably like, I haven't watched season 2, so I obviously don't know what happened, but I'm just like, there's no way you guys aren't doing some crazy, freaky Diddy Epstein stuff in this place.
Exactly.
Why don't I know what's happening? At least my Audi should know what my innie's doing. I know,
and it's like, I'm just supposed to trust what you guys are saying is actually. And then it's like, why is it always like I'm getting hurt? Like on a regular job, it's like I'm not just like getting hurt. I'm not like super clumsy on the outside. Why am I just always getting hurt here? Like there's some abuse going on. And no one can explain it
either.
Exactly. Oh no.
You mess around, you're gonna leave your Audi. You're gonna come back and you'll be like, why am I pregnant? I definitely saw someone do an analysis where, like, because you know the multiverse was a popular thing for a while, but if you look at a lot of the most recent media that's coming out, we're getting a lot of twin duality movies, and somebody made this really good take talking about the reason why we keep seeing a lot of twin self-replica media is that right now, because of the really jarring political landscape, because with the whole Kamala Harris Trump thing and the different ideologies that are happening right now, we as a country are dealing with that. We want, when you talk to people, they honestly want socialism. They honestly do.
Yeah.
But due to all of the branding that has happened around socialism, communism, they still see that as a bad thing when capitalism has drained our country of its youth.
Right.
And we really get that in this media.
In
this media either. Just like, oh, like, your work self is draining you of your life. And we as a country are not coming to grasp with that.
Yeah.
We wish for a way to separate ourselves from the never-ending monotony of work life, how capitalism is draining us. But then we're now ready to embrace socialism.
So I think many of us think that the only way to still have a place, to still have an existence, to still have people loving us is through seeking, you know, eternal youth or like hypersexualization. And so I wouldn't blame anyone for just wanting to exist.
The thing about the old days is that's the old days. But if we could turn back time, I can't help but wonder, what could Elizabeth have done differently?
She probably wasn't the right person for the substance, because like if you're in that position though, like if you're like unintentionally feeling like you're missing out, or you feel like you want to go back to how you were, I feel like you're always going to be at a position where you don't have the required self-control that you would need to have this work out for you in a manageable way. It just is not going to happen. Like, it's too much of a unbalanced scale. It becomes a vice at that point, and then you're just waiting for the inevitable.
Auntie need a hobby.
Yeah, she would just sit around in the house, putting the indent in that seat. That part killed me. Watching TV, eating, and like Sue did have a little bit of a point where it's like, you know, you got to take care of yourself. Like, you can't just keep doing this. But it was for the wrong reasons. It was definitely for her own benefit. I was thinking, I was like, man, she could have literally stopped this whole thing at the finger.
So many
like,
times.
No more. Like,
she should have honestly stopped it when she realized that her life became a mess. Girl, you're Elizabeth Sparkle. Your whole iconography is that you're a Pilates fitness influencer. If you don't do a Pilates for old people, get your bag up, go on the fact
start
that
a channel. Like, she didn't have to be on a network.
The fact that she never used any of her Elizabeth Sparkle money to go to Cancun let me know that something was wrong.
Like, I'm going on vacation. I'm retiring. I'm giving it up. Like,
and I know that she
wanted
has
to
that,
keep it
that
going.
need.
To be
I know
at
she
the
has
top,
that
to be the
need
it
to
girl.
speed. Girl, you go find another side hustle. Because once I saw, because you know the aesthetics of the movie was really weird. I thought it was like giving 70s, it was giving 80s.
Yeah,
Girl,
I was like, what is this time frame? Yeah, they did.
Sis, you don't start a YouTube channel?
I thought it was like podcast channel, something like, you know, maybe talk about all that she's learned in her lifetime.
She has no reflection. She has no friends. She has nothing to help her to see herself in any other way except through the validation that's coming from
nobody's knocking on her door trying to find her. Right?
Yeah, like literally no friends, no family, which I thought was an interesting kind of, you know, way of really creating the extreme, so you really understood how
beauty
limited.
Was all that mattered.
I think that they're probably unrealistic way, but I would have tried to, like, I don't know, like measure out the time, try to like block out my weeks so that I know what I'm doing at one week and what I'm doing the other week. So like in that situation when she kind of got picked up for like the New Year's special or whatever that she was supposed to be doing, I thought that what I thought was going to happen was that, oh, it's going to land on an off week and then she's just going to have to, like, she's going to keep the balance up until then. But no, like Sue didn't care after that. She was just like, oh, I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm not even going to think about it. So I think that maybe trying to be a little more mindful, trying to, you know, just organize your life in a way that you can like recreationally use the substance. But like, I guess that's a tall ask, but I think if she wasn't in that like such a down moment, car crash, everything, like she might have been able to say like, I don't know, use it more like responsibly, quote unquote.
If Elizabeth would have put the time in to build friendships, build relationships, have a female audience, I'm telling you, that's also something I noticed. Her audience, I feel like, was mostly male. And that's why they're treating her like that. Because if she had a mostly female audience, she would have been able, it would have been empowering. And then she would have been able to quickly change into a different genre.
Right, like pivot.
Yeah, like she could have gone into makeup, like, guys, I'm 50 and so sexy.
Listen, she had the middle part bust down 30-inch. I was like, okay.
She could have really like changed her audience, but because of the fact that she built her career off male validation, she was cooked. She was literally cooked. There was no way to save her.
I referenced SZA earlier in the video with her final line in her song Good Days. Half of us chasing fountains of youth, and it's in the present. That part always hits to me because it is literally so true. We're always chasing the next thing and the next thing after that, while sitting in the currents of our last desires. We're so consumed by chasing new ways to be better, when we are already the better version of ourselves from yesterday. It's cute to acknowledge, but it is so much easier said than done. Like SZA herself, acknowledging the fountains of youth are in the present, but still actively chasing it. And that's no shade, like literally not at all. It's human. We see how the substance destroyed Elizabeth and later on destroyed Sue. Sue was made to be the perfect version of Elizabeth, but it still wasn't enough. Sue needed more and did what she could to get it, literally creating a monster. And even after seeing how monster Alissa Sue met her fate, I have this dreading feeling that just wasn't the end of the substance. So overall, what did you think of the movie? Because like we said, the ending definitely spiraled into chaos.
First off, what did we only have a few minutes, but what did you think about the movie? Like, how did you feel?
Well, I liked the conversation that they were having about like beauty standards and like self-image as you get older. Especially because I feel like doing what I do, I guess, like doing what we do, just like being so front facing is like it's kind of like it's like, when is my time gonna be up? And I feel like that's what a lot of people deal with. And for her, like, she definitely was on top for a long time until it was the end of that time. And so I did like that aspect of it, because that definitely is like scary. Scary to think about.
You think about that?
I do. Because I'm like, I don't maybe pessimist. Like, as much as I'm like super optimistic, I like, there's just like times where I'm like, what if like everything just goes wrong? Because life has a way of just like, I feel that. Yeah, it just has a way of being so like up and down. And like, I maybe just also like, as a woman, it's like society kind of puts it like there's always going to be like a next. But it's like, it's not like something that like weighs on me like, oh my gosh. But like, it just makes you think.
Where of all things, I was at an event that was for women in our industry, and I felt like I didn't belong, and that perhaps my time was complete, and that I wasn't feeling meaningful work was coming, and I didn't feel like I needed to work. My own success didn't drive me. And I felt a grief at this idea that it was like, is this done? And sometimes when you don't have anything else, maybe you've given what you were supposed to give, but it didn't quite feel that way. And it was such a low moment of feeling not connected. And then I thought, but if this is a song that I haven't finished, then I need to shift how I'm holding myself. Like, if I don't feel I belong, then why would anybody else? And literally 2 weeks later is when this script came to me.
I definitely didn't expect it to be so gruesome. Like, I'm not like the type to watch movies like that. And so I was like you, like just seeing like, oh, the substance. People are talking about it. People are like making memes out of it. I'm like, okay, let me watch it. And I was actually going to do it for, well, that's actually what this is, a Discomfort movie video. But I'm like, I'm gonna just watch it for a Discomfort movie. And I was like, this is a lot. This is a whole lot. But I guess I didn't think too much of it when I watched it. I think that's why I wanted to get like you guys' opinions. And then like my sister watched it, and I'm like, okay, more and more people are watching. I need to know what other people think. Because when I initially watched it, it was just kind of like, oh, it's just a commentary on like aging and self-image and self-worth. But I'm like, am I missing something? Because like they definitely did go off the rails a little bit at the end.
The end made it seem like it was deeper than it was. Yeah, I think especially if they target people like her or people who are just in that position where they're valued by their looks or just how, I don't know, how young they are or whatever. I think it's very elusive, especially like I wonder, like you were saying, like in the sense of like people thinking about their time is up. I do think that especially if you're in like content creation, you definitely have a bit of, especially at a certain rate, once you're at like a certain level, you probably are feeling like, how do I pivot out of this? Yeah. I do think that some people would take this, like, I'm sure Mr. Beast or whatever would have taken something like this. Like, you have the opportunity. Please, yeah. Like, you have the opportunity to be Mr. Beast forever, you know? Like, yeah. I feel like somebody would take
like
that.
At your peak too. And like, not that it like weighs on me all the time, because I feel like that's the important thing too, is the pivot and like knowing why you do certain things. And I think that Elizabeth maybe held too much value and too much weight in being like the it girl. And it's like, sometimes it's not about that. Maybe you just need to find something that you like to do. Yeah. And satisfy your own time when it's time to go home behind closed doors. Like, what do you like to do? I feel like it's all about the pivot for sure. But,
also, people are stupid. Yeah. Like, people are stupid. Like, if you can't base what you value off of what other people value, because when you see what other people value, you're like, that's not it, you know?
Exactly. Sue herself overdid it, like we talked about earlier. She literally killed her host, pretty much. So it's like, that's literally where you get your sustenance from. So if your host is not alive, your time is going to be up in due time. So she kills Elizabeth, and then she has no spinal fluid to go off of. So now she's starting to deteriorate. And that could also just be that she was already like, she put the termination needle in her.
I definitely think it's because she killed Elizabeth. Because then when she starts to deteriorate, her dumb self tries to do Substance Part 2 based off herself, knowing she's now the original. You need the Matrix. They said that a million times. You need the Matrix. Without no Matrix, girl, you're cooked. You need
and then
the
she
Matrix.
pretty much took everything out of Elizabeth. So it really wasn't.
It's greed.
It's greed, yeah.
I definitely think people didn't care. People, as soon as they got Sue, stopped caring about Elizabeth. And I definitely think when they get their new hot Sue Part 2, they're going to pretend that the whole thing with Elizabeth didn't happen. We never really got exposed to the substance, you know? It wasn't like Sue, the monstrosity of Sue Elizabeth, whatever the hell that was, went on stage and said, I took a thing called the substance and that's why I look like this. That's why I look like this, whatever. It was just, what the hell happened? I think they're gonna definitely pass it off as a, you know how, you know, they're probably gonna say there was a gas leak and everybody had a wild hallucination. They probably cut off their cameras in time.
Right.
Or they're probably gonna say it was an optical illusion, somebody who hated the network and wanted to see us fall, so they use that kind of nonsense or whatever to, they're gonna make some type of nonsensical excuse to say that, oh, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and they're just gonna forget about Sue. They're literally gonna forget about Sue the same way they forgot about Elizabeth. And I definitely think the substance is going to live on because there's always gonna be people doing the shady network stuff. I don't know how many people that one nurse told about the substance. I don't know how many people those people told. It's like a virus. Once you know, you spread it amongst all of the nations, right? Because technically it works really well until it doesn't. And I definitely think it's like, you know how we were talking about BBLs?
Yes.
There's so many news articles exposing what BBLs do to people, but do people still not get BBLs? Because people don't realize that BBLs are one of the most dangerous surgeries. And when people kept coming out with, I almost died from getting my BBL, I almost died from getting my BBL, it was story after story after story. People still kept getting them because they thrive to have that beauty standard. It doesn't matter how dangerous it is. If it can get you to where you need to be, people are going to continually do it, even if it's dangerous.
I'm like the guy that gave it to her, seeing his, like, I don't know what it would be called, original person in that diner, and how much his own double was taking from him to have him looking that way. I was curious. I'm like, dang, do like all of the doubles that they create just get too big for their britches and are like, I need this all the time? Or is it like,
I definitely think that it's the image issues.
Yeah.
Don't you remember when Elizabeth was on the floor crying, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself after killing Sue? You're the best of me. You have to show the world the best of me. You just killed yourself. Like, there's levels to this, you know? Like, think about it. Elizabeth killed Sue. She couldn't deal with the best part of her being dead. Brought her back by doing some, like, a blood transfusion in her heart. And then Sue killed her.
Oh my
God. Killed herself. Like, that's a level of self-hate.
Hatred. That is exact. I was like, now she hates Elizabeth. Like, she literally hates Elizabeth. And the fact that
because Elizabeth hates herself.
Yeah. Literally a reflection.
And it was violence. It wasn't a cute little
like, okay, I'm
she
just
was taking her
she
head
was
in the
probably
mirror.
The fact that she tried to get rid of her too and they came back at the same time, she was probably like, yeah, I really hate you now. Like, you tried to get rid of me, but it's like, yeah, I want my life back. But she couldn't even
want
do
her
it.
life back.
She couldn't even do it.
Looks like everything sure is in the right place this time.
Well, I appreciate you so much. That was all the questions I had. I apologize for inflicting that movie onto you.
Yeah, that was. I was like, oh, I heard about it, but seeing it for myself, I screamed for like 5 minutes straight. And then at the end, she turned into a spaghetti monster and they swept her. Yikes.
Off her star. But it was crazy that she even made her way to her own star. Like
Yeah.
one last hoorah.
I low-key
before-
assumed that it was outside. Because there's no way that spaghetti monster could make it as she... Nah.
Well, thank you so much, Ella, for joining me. I appreciate you talking about the substances. I wish this was like an iPad and it gave us the hearts.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you on your social media platforms?
So you can practically find me everywhere by looking up Ella Pastoral, but I'm really on YouTube. YouTube be my main slash, and Instagram. Mostly YouTube though, but you can find me on Instagram.
You guys go follow and subscribe. I appreciate you speaking with me so much.
It was an honor.
And I literally loved to hear your opinion, and that's why I asked you, because I was like, I need to know what he thinks. But outside of just like me messaging you, I'm like, let me get him in the video.
Hey, because even once I watched that, I was just there like, I tried not to think about it too much, but I'm like, I still don't know how I feel about this.
Right.
So I'm glad that we got to like discuss it.
Where can the people find you? What can
You can
tell
find
what you've been
me-
up to? Mhm.
Find me on YouTube at Corduroy Crook. I've got stuff coming sometime eventually. At
Facts.
Twitter at Corduroy Crook as well. And yeah, I don't know, post stuff, videos.
Relatable.
Facts. I'm like whatever.
I
Every
can't say
video
when,
is
but
a
I got
different
some
thing.
work.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to thank Ella Pastoral and Corduroy Crook for helping me out with this. I really appreciated you guys' contribution. If you would like to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. All that information is in my description box down below. Again, I do have multiple YouTube channels. I have a Sims channel and a lifestyle channel. But if you made it to the end of this video, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. But for now, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace.